Tonight, the president's trip to Japan, leaving an impending debt limit crisis at home.
And meeting with world leaders where the U.S. dropped the first nuclear bomb during World War II. Plus,
politics is driving the agenda in far too many of our federal agencies.
Republicans in the House hear testimony from FBI whistleblowers.
And removing deadly mines.
174,000 square kilometers of the territory of Ukraine are contaminated by landmines laid by the occupier and Russian shells of various types that have not exploded.
Another casualty from the war in Ukraine.
All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. The president meets with world leaders as the clock ticks over a deal on the debt limit. Thanks for joining us in Washington. I'm Jenna Browder.
And I'm John Jessup. Good evening. With a domestic deadline looming, President Biden is in Japan tonight on a truncated trip with world leaders, planning to come back to Washington early to hammer out an agreement.
Yeah, before leaving for the overseas meeting, he expressed confidence he'll be able to make a deal with Republicans before the June 1st deadline. CBN News White House correspondent Abigail Robertson has more in tonight's top story. Abigail?
Well, Jenna, President Biden will now spend just 4 days instead of the planned 8 overseas in Asia as he works to bolster support from U.S. allies during the annual G7 summit.
When our countries stand together, we stand stronger.
Biden kicked off the trip with a meeting with Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, who told the president that the relationship between the two countries is a cornerstone of peace in the Indo-Pacific.
We face one of the most complex environments in recent history, security environments. And I couldn't agree with you more.
This year's G7 held in Hiroshima, the site of the first nuclear bomb drop by the U.S. in 1945 during World War II, a setting that carries renewed gravity as the two leaders affirm their continued commitment to supporting Ukraine as it defends itself from Russia's invasion, and discuss growing security threats from North Korea and China. Biden originally planned to visit Australia and Papua New Guinea's leaders as well while overseas, but those trips have been postponed due to the ongoing debt ceiling drama back home. Biden assuring the American people before taking off.
I'm confident that we'll get the agreement on the budget, that America will not default.
President Biden is reportedly negotiating with House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and preparing to agree to some spending cuts which are concerning Democrats as the deadline to make a deal quickly approaches. John, Jenna.
All right, White House correspondent Abigail Robertson. Thank you so much, Abby. Well, House Republicans accuse the FBI of unfairly targeting Americans with conservative values. At a hearing on Capitol Hill, they used whistleblowers to help make their case.
Now, testifying before the weaponization of government and House subcommittee, the whistleblowers allege the FBI and Justice Department have become politicized. CBN News Capitol Hill correspondent Matt Galka joins us with this story. Matt?
Well, John and Jenna, Ohio Republican Congressman Jim Jordan says he's talked to dozens of FBI whistleblowers ahead of today's hearing. He's now alleging the agency has retaliated against some of them for speaking out.
If you're a parent attending a school board meeting, you're a pro-lifer praying at a clinic, or you're a Catholic simply going to Mass, you are a target of the government.
The House's Weaponization of Federal Government Subcommittee released its report charging the FBI has politicized rot in the agency and leadership. The report was based on testimony from self-described FBI whistleblowers, 3 who appeared publicly in front of the committee.
All I wanted to do was serve my country by stopping bad guys and protecting the innocent. To my chagrin, bad guys have begun running parts of the government, making it difficult to continue to serve this nation and protect the innocent.
You may think I'm a political partisan. You may think I am a grifter. You may think I'm a conspiracy theorist. It does not matter. Simply put, this committee should avoid the temptation to impugn the character and the motivations of the messengers seated before you.
Some of the accusations in the whistleblower report accuse the FBI of inflating domestic violence extremism to fit a political narrative from the Biden administration and forcing out conservative employees.
Despite my history of unblemished service to the United States, the FBI suspended my security clearance, accusing me of actually being disloyal to my country.
The day before the meeting, the FBI said it had revoked the security clearances of 3 agents, including 2 who were testifying at the hearing because of ties to January 6th. The FBI said Staff Operations Specialist Marcus Allen obstructed lawful investigation into people involved with the January 6th riot. The agency alleged former FBI agent Steve Friend objected to using a SWAT team to arrest a January 6th suspect. The agency says he also downloaded agency documents on an unauthorized flash drive. Democrats on the committee used that to question the testimony of the whistleblowers.
My colleagues on the far right are on a mission to attack, discredit, and ultimately dismantle the FBI. This is defund the police on steroids.
The hearing comes as the FBI is under increased scrutiny after the release of the Durham report this week, where Special Counsel John Durham concluded the FBI should not have launched a full investigation into connections between Donald Trump's campaign and Russia during the 2016 election. John, Jenna.
All right, Capitol Hill correspondent Matt Galka. Thank you, Matt. Well, here with us now is CBN News Chief Political Analyst David Brody. David, always great to see you. So as Matt just said, in today's weaponization hearing, it comes after that damaging report over the FBI's role in the Russia investigation. David, how much do these revelations erode trust in the FBI?
Well, so much, John, and this was really not just the beginning. That's the problem. This has been going on for a long time. I mean, not only the Russiagate situation, some will call it Ukrainegate in terms of what Donald Trump called the perfect phone call. But the point is that we've had a problem with trust in our public institutions for a very long time. And once again, I always like to say, don't take my word for it. Please don't. Trust me, don't take my word for it. But look at the Gallup polls on this. I mean, the trust in public institutions has just spiraled downward, where you have very few folks trusting, whether it be the government, the media, many of our public institutions writ large, our education system. So this is a problem for that goes really beyond just this hearing today.
David, let's talk about the president. He's cutting short his trip overseas, skipping Australia. The Sydney Morning Herald characterized that as a snub. Another publication saying it's a gift to China, which the trip was designed to confront. How does that affect our relationship with Australia, arguably our strongest ally in the region?
I mean, I think it's a short-term ding for the Biden administration to a degree. I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. I don't think people will sit around going, how's our relationship with Australia today? I just don't think they do it. So once again, it's some bad press for the Biden administration. But beyond that, I don't really see the long-term significances here. Look, he's coming back. He's got to cut this trip short for the debt ceiling talks. It all makes sense to Americans. So I don't think he's going to get too hung out to dry on this.
David, shifting gears here, the race for the 2024 White House campaign is really beginning to heat up. Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina is expected to announce his candidacy Monday. Can you talk about him as a potential candidate and how he might make waves?
Well, let's just start with this with Tim Scott. He has a great story. I mean, and he's got a great testimony, by the way, as well. I mean, I remember interviewing Tim Scott, oh gosh, I'm going to date myself. Was it 15 years ago when he was in the House of Representatives? He was running, let's say, it was 13 years ago. It was 2010, and the Tea Party was just coming of age then. And he was this big Tea Party guy, and he was running for the U.S. Congress. He's running for the House of Representatives seat. And he has this great backstory about, in essence, being witness to at Chick-fil-A and basically failing every single subject until his life turned around and he got a hold of Jesus, or Jesus got a hold of him, I should really say. Anyhow, he's going to tell that story in Iowa and many other places. So that'll be compelling. Whether or not he makes some headwinds here, we'll see. I mean, I'll be honest with you. He's kind of in the same Nikki Haley camp. I see there's 3 lanes here, right? Donald Trump's in a lane to himself. There's the Ron DeSantis lane. That's a separate lane. And then there's the Nikki Haley, the Asa Hutchinson, the Tim Scott. One of those will probably come out of that lane to make it a 3-person race ultimately. But I think Tim Scott's got potential to do so. He's got a great story.
I noticed you didn't mention a Mike Pence lane.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I didn't mention a Mike Pence lane. But I didn't know you listened to me, John, but thank you. No, you're right. No, but look, here's the thing. Mike Pence is in lane number 3 with Nikki Haley and Asa Hutchinson. And that's really sad if you think about it. The former vice president you would think would have more traction, but he's in that lane with them.
David, you mentioned Ron DeSantis, hugely popular with a lot of Republicans. Do you think he stands any kind of chance in the GOP primary?
Oh, sure. I mean, but, you know, look, can we just be honest? Are the cameras rolling? Just kidding. Look, he has to hope Trump implodes because this is Trump's race to lose. And some would say he's doing a pretty good job of it. But seriously, DeSantis has a shot, but he has to hope things kind of go wrong and sideways for Trump. And here's the problem for DeSantis, too. Even though he has a shot, I've always said he's going to look better on paper than in practice because, once again, he's going to have to attack Trump. If you attack Trump, you attack MAGA, and that is not going to be a good situation. So we'll see. But does he have the resume? Yes, he's got the resume, and he's got some major donors behind him as well.
All right, we will see. David Brody, Chief Political Analyst for CBN News. Thank you so much. Have a great night, David.
Thanks, David.
All right, you too, guys.
Well, debt collectors coming for America. Coming up, what happens if we can't pay up? The latest on the debt ceiling negotiations.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
This is CBN News Watch. Thanks for joining us. Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, credible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN News Watch, because truth matters. Weekdays at 5 on the CBN News Channel.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
The Millsburg Falls man coming.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Well, welcome back. We mentioned the debt ceiling at the top of the show. Now there's new hope tonight for a new deal on lifting the debt limit to avoid a situation where the United States defaults and runs out of money to pay its bills. While Republicans criticized the president meeting with world leaders in Japan, one top Senate Republican said not reaching a deal was out of the question.
The deal's going to have to be cut between the president and Speaker McCarthy. And what does the president do after saying the sky is falling? He leaves town. Well, this is all a bunch of drama. A deal will be reached because it has to. Both parties understand that.
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy told Politico today, quote, "We're not there, but I see a path," and that he thinks an eventual debt limit bill will be on the House floor next week.
And joining us now is Mark Hamrick, Washington Bureau Chief and Senior Economic Analyst at Bankrate. So, Mark, what do you make of Speaker McCarthy's comments there? A lot of optimism that something will happen next week.
John and Jenna, good to be with you. I think that reflects the consensus view that an agreement not only will be reached, but must be reached, because to do anything else, to breach the debt ceiling, to cause a federal default, would be causing a catastrophe that is of the government's own making, of elected officials' own making. And it's understood that continuing to accrue more debt, which is part of the bargain that both sides seem to be in the process of working on, is less than optimal. But for years now, there's been no restraint or constraints on federal spending per se. And so the only alternative now is to continue to, put more money on the federal credit card just to pay for what's already been committed to. That's really the problem. That's the problem with the debt ceiling, is it doesn't keep people from spending. We've had decades and decades of proof of that.
Mark, to the point that we just heard from Texas Senator John Cornyn, this is just a bunch of drama. Washington has been here many times before where lawmakers always seem to manage or squeak out a deal at the last minute. So how is this really any different?
Well, I think it's different, John, because number one, both parties are more fractured than they've been during our lifetimes, as long as they may be. And I think it's widely understood, unfortunately, the political process in Washington has been as unproductive as any of us have ever witnessed. Let's look at the fact that we're not having much confidence at all that the government will be able to pay what it's committed to with respect to Medicare and Social Security just a few years from now. And that's a direct reflection of the failure to solve problems. So I do chuckle, John and Jenna, when politicians accuse other politicians of playing politics, but there has been a fair degree of that going on here.
Yeah. Shifting gears here to the Federal Reserve, a new article from you guys at Bankrate suggests most of the Fed's interest rate hikes may be in the rearview mirror. What do you foresee, Mark? How many more hikes do you think we'll see in 2023?
Well, we have about a month, John and Jenna, before the next meeting, so we have to digest or perhaps suffer indigestion through a number of economic releases that occur between then and now. But the financial markets are betting, and members of the Federal Open Market Committee themselves have indicated previously that they think that we're done with interest rate hikes. But inflation has proved more persistent than would have been expected, although it's down from the peak, as we've discussed. And the job market has proven more resilient than what we would have thought. With the most recent unemployment rate at 3.4%, matching that historic low. But right now, the bet is no more interest rate hikes.
Speaking of job market, jobless claims fell more than expected last week, down 22,000. The week before, though, there was a surge in jobless claims. So how do you square the back and forth, Mark, and what does that mean for the larger economy?
I think it's important to watch sort of where the trends are going. And there has been this sort of stair-stepping up of more people turning to the federal government or state governments in this case to get unemployment benefits. And that's reflecting the rising tide of job cuts. So even as we've had more people obviously finding employment, getting that unemployment rate lower, we've had more people losing their jobs as well. And I think that's in the context of a slowing economy and a job market that has been red hot for some time and really can't stay that hot for much longer, I think.
All right. Mark Hamrick with Bankrate. We always appreciate your time and insights. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Farming turns fatal. Why planting crops in Ukraine has become deadly and what's being done about it. Next on Faith Nation.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians
in Iran are routinely arrested.
Happily, Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Saturday night at 6 on the CBN News Channel. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep,
You wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
Welcome back. Today, Israel celebrates Jerusalem Day, marking the nation's capture of the Old City nearly 6 decades ago. Christians joined Jewish supporters today, marching around holy sites, carrying blue and white Israeli flags and banners, reading "Pray for the Peace of Jerusalem." Thousands made their way from the Old City to the Western Wall. But the celebrations, they're not without tension. Palestinians who claim East Jerusalem as their capital see the march as a provocation, coming just days after a burst of fighting between Israel and militants in the Gaza Strip.
To the war in Ukraine, 1 person is dead and 2 more were hurt after Russia fired a barrage of missiles across the country. This photo shows what's left of just one of the 30 Russian rockets fired overnight. Ukrainian air defenses shot down all but one of them ahead of Ukraine's expected counteroffensive. The Russian escalation comes as the Ukrainian military employs newly supplied weapons from Western allies and while a Chinese envoy met with President Zelensky to discuss a potential peace proposal. Well, trying to plant spring crops is putting farmers in harm's way in Ukraine. With every step, they're at risk of setting off deadly landmines.
Emergency services are working to clear the fields of the explosives, risking their own lives in the process. Chuck Holton brings us that story from Kyiv.
It's spring here in Ukraine, and if the farmers are going to have a fall harvest, they need to get seeds in the ground soon. But one new worry, aside from the weather and pests, is slowing them down. Something like this.
This farmer hit a mine with his tractor, and in areas liberated from Russian occupation, hundreds of thousands of mines litter the fields. Dozens have died trying to plant their crops.
174,000 square kilometers of the territory of Ukraine are contaminated by landmines laid by the occupier and Russian shells of various types that have not exploded. This contaminated area is twice the size of Austria. These are hundreds of thousands of anti-personnel and anti-tank mines, MLRS rockets, aerial bombs and mortar shells, which, without exploding, get stuck in the fields, in the remains of houses, and even tripwires with grenades, which the Russians left specifically against civilians, ordinary people.
Farmers have to clear these out. They sometimes strike them with their tractors. You have people who will be discovering for the next over 100 years unexploded shells in one way, shape, form, or another.
The state emergency services are working overtime to help the farmers plant crops safely. Still, they need more workers and are hiring as fast as they can.
This is a very stressful job, so we first do a psychological assessment to make sure they can handle it. From there, we have shortened the training to only 1 month. Once they pass their exams, we send them right out to the front lines for on-the-job training.
This unit, who consists of 77 guys, they are all operational. They are all working on a front line. And I found in them this kind of a internal peace, which is, I think, super important for any pyrotechnic or demining guys.
This group has been together since long before the war started, so they have plenty of experience with demining.
Before the war started, we were already very busy. More than 10,000 explosive objects were found in 2021 alone, and most of them were from the Second World War.
The job they have to do now is much, much more dangerous.
Once areas are deoccupied, we are the first to go in. We find explosives wired into doors, between blankets on beds, even in children's toys, where if you push the button, the toy explodes.
They're demining something that is invisible, and nobody expects to have it right there in your toy or under your pillow. And that's like, they are doing it. So they are the ones who knows and who can make a change.
And doing the job takes a high emotional toll.
When you see what they are doing to Ukraine and Ukrainians, it's hard to think of them as humans anymore.
These missiles right behind me are just a small fraction of the more than 14,000 munitions that have been rendered safe by the State Emergency Services of Ukraine. And this training facility is bringing up the next generation of EOD specialists to try to render safe the hundreds of thousands of square kilometers that are having unexploded ordnance dumped on it during this war. But the number of mines in the ground keeps growing as long as Russia holds any territory in Ukraine. So the greatest hope is that the Russian army will be defeated this year.
I don't want to live in a world where any humans would have the idea to harm a child or any other human beings.
This war will linger for a very long time, and the longest lasting remnant will be those unexploded ordinances.
Reporting from Kyiv, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Thank you, Chuck. Coming up, the most valuable manuscript ever sold, the hefty price tag, next on Faith Nation.
If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old is gone, and the new has come. Has Jesus changed your life? We'd love to hear your story and celebrate it by sharing it with others. You never know how your story could change someone's life.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible,
yes,
Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link. Tuesday morning at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Well, a few months back, we told you about an 1,100-year-old Hebrew Bible up for auction in New York.
It's called the Codex Sassoon, and on Wednesday, it sold for $38 million.
Wow.
It's one of the world's oldest surviving Bible manuscripts. The leather-bound handwritten parchment volume contains a nearly complete Hebrew Bible, and it's not too far off from what we use today.
It's very, very close, almost exactly what we have today. And in fact, it's written in the same square Hebrew script that Torah scrolls are written in, and that's been used for hundreds of years.
Sotheby's says former U.S. ambassador to Romania, Alfred H. Moses, bought the manuscript and donated it to a museum in Tel Aviv.
You know, videographer Isaiah Puder said earlier, if that's $18 million or $38 million, why are they handling it with their hands?